Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Support Group. My name is Emilia Nagy. I live in San Diego, and I'm so excited to have you all tonight. Bruce and Marsha and Pablo and Janine. Hi, Janine. Karen, Mike, Heather, Christine, Anthony, Pamela, Mike, Christy, Melissa, JJ, Jennifer, Lisa, Caitlin, Alicia, wow, I love it. Welcome, everybody. Welcome as you're all joining tonight. Welcome, 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 welcome. So basically, I've allotted an hour and 15 minutes for tonight's meeting. And it's a virtual meeting because we're online. Can everybody hear me okay? Can you give me a thumbs up, or can you give me a, oh, awesome, great. Oh, I love it. I love it. Thanks, you guys. So what I was thinking we would do today is I want to use this breakout rooms feature, which is phenomenal. We did it on our online retreat, and I got so many great reviews about it. So basically, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to introduce myself, tell you a little bit about me. I made a really pretty PowerPoint with my succulent arrangements because that's one of my hobbies. And then I'm going to give you a little tidbit of information in terms of the pillars. What are the pillars to recovery? What keeps us from healing? What keeps us isolated? What keeps us alone? And then I will give you some mistakes that a lot of people make when they're recovering. And then I'll put you in groups. You're going to go in breakout rooms. You're going to say hi to everyone. You're going to tell them your name. And you guys are going to discuss that specific piece of the puzzle. And then we'll come back and we'll chat again. Okay? So that's how tonight's going to go. I love that you're all from all over. Like we have people from San Francisco, from Chicago, from San Diego, from all over the United States, and sometimes we even get international people, so that's amazing. So welcome. So if you're here tonight, this meeting, obviously, most of you probably found it through the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Group. Maybe some of you have come through the Facebook group. Some of you might be coming from other emails or other people's summits or interviews and podcasts that you might have heard me on. So welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Emilia Nagy, and I'm 42 years old, and I live in San Diego with my hubby and my daughter and our dog, and my life is happy. It's not perfect, but it's happy. So let me show you a little bit about my life through my PowerPoint presentation so you guys can know who I'm talking about. And I just don't have it up. So give me a second to pull it up. I invite you to just take a few breaths and just arrive here. Bring your attention, your awareness to this moment. Allow yourself to close the door to your day, whatever you were doing before you got here, whatever you're going to be doing after we're done here. I just invite you to really take this time to just close the door to the world, anything that might be distracting you, anything else that might be in the way of you really being present and getting the healing and the transformation and the community that is one of the beautiful gifts that we get from doing this work together. Good. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to share a screen that you can't hear me or you want me to repeat something that I'm saying. So we're going to talk about the 3 pillars to healing to thrive after narcissistic abuse. And I was just telling you a little bit about myself and who I am. So I'm a Reiki healer and certified coach. I've also been doing, I can't believe it's true, but it's true, 22 years of therapy and research, and I've been leading these meetups online and live since 2015. I'm the founder of Worthy of Love, which is a coaching organization dedicated to helping women and men reclaim their lives after narcissistic abuse and create healthy, sustainable, fulfilling partnerships with each other. I have had the privilege and the honor of helping thousands of people heal and get to their next level. I'm working on my book, all the things I've learned from doing this. And now we're in 3 cities in California through Meetup and in many cities across the world. So this is very exciting. Like I was mentioning, I live in San Diego with my soulmate, and why I'm showing you these succulents is because that's one of my hobbies. I like to make succulent arrangements. And here's a picture of my family. And what I want you to know about this picture is that I feel free, you guys. Like now I feel free. That's what this picture on the left represents. I feel free. I feel free of drama. I feel free of bullshit. I feel free of emotional manipulation. I feel free of guilt. I feel free of shame. I feel free of not feeling good enough to ask for what I need. I am just free. And I'm free because I healed from narcissistic abuse, and I healed from the pattern of continually attracting the kinds of people. And for me, I was dating men, so I was attracting men who had narcissistic traits and who were basically the model that I was that was given to me by my family of origin. But I was able to heal that through therapy and coaching. And so this is me now with my husband and my daughter. And it wasn't always this way. About 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I had depression, I had anxiety, I had insomnia, I had really bad episodes of suicidal ideation. I honestly thought about ending my life because there was just constant drama with my family, constantly not good enough, constantly never doing enough. If I came on a Saturday, why didn't you come on a Sunday? If I came on a Sunday, why didn't you also come the following Saturday? You guys this may sound familiar to you. And it was just really, really draining me of all my life force and of all my energy. There was just so much drama going on between my dad and I, between my mom and I, between them two, because they had gone through a divorce, which it's now settled down. But here they are. Here's a photo of me on my wedding day. And I just shared this with you because I like to give some context to what narcissistic abuse is and how it comes about, so that you may have the ability to have some illumination and look at your own life and your own family system and see where and how you may have come into contact, or those people that you may have been married to or gotten close to have come in contact with this. I don't want to call it a disease, but it's definitely a spiritual disease and an emotional disease. And it's something that I believe strips a lot of people of the love and the belonging and the closeness and the intimacy that we all crave for, that we all want in relationships. And so just a little brief history here. How did it come to be that I was raised in a narcissistic family system? Well, on my mom's side, her mom, her husband died when she was 36. Mom was raised without her dad. Grandma was perpetually grieving. If I remember my mom telling me, it was like 10 years and my grandma was still wearing black. And basically, like, the whole environment in the home was, don't upset mom, don't upset mom, mom has been through enough. And that was really difficult for my mom growing up, because she didn't get what she needed. She wasn't allowed to have needs. She wasn't allowed to ask for what she needed, because everything was focused on grandma being okay, basically. So then when she had me at very young, at 22, and started mothering me, and I wasn't going to have that kind of cycle, there was, as you can imagine, a lot of opposition, a lot of fighting, a lot of very, very difficult conversations, a lot of gaslighting, a lot of blaming, shaming. So that's just a brief description around how this arose on my mother's side. A really good book that talks about this, and you might want to write this down if you are someone that's dealing with a narcissistic mom. It's called Will I Ever Be Good Enough by Carol McBride. And she talks about what narcissism is, how to heal through it, and why it happens, how it arises in families. And definitely having a death in the family or prolonged illness can cause enough emotional trauma that can create that. The name of the book again is Will I Ever Be Good Enough by Carol McBride. On my dad's side, he was more of a charismatic type of person. My mom, I would say, if we had to diagnose, we would say a somatic, passive, aggressive person with narcissistic traits. My dad was more the charismatic person that would isolate his wife, would want everything to kind of revolve around him for him to feel okay. And how he got to being there was his mom growing up always had everything having to look perfect. And so he wasn't allowed to make mistakes. He wasn't allowed to be himself. He's kind of an artistic person, but grandma, because she had wounds from poverty and having been very poor, and she rose up in the ranks of society, if you will, when she became a school principal. She had this really, really important facade that she wanted to keep on, that, you know, everything was perfect in her family. And this was during the time of communism in Bulgaria. So she was also a member of the Communist Party, and she had to, you know, put on the face of a good comrade. Not that things were terrible in her family, but certainly my dad wasn't getting seen or having any of his emotional needs met by having to just pretend. And so these two people got together very young, 22, had a daughter. You know, at that time, there's not really birth control. I don't want to say they didn't want me, but I certainly don't think they were like, God, please give us a daughter. We're in the middle of our PhDs. This is the perfect time. So I think I was a bit of a surprise, and definitely very difficult because they were young and they were doing their PhDs, and then we had to deal with immigration. So just to give you some context around how narcissism can arise in family systems, that's kind of how it occurred for me. And then, of course, that was my pattern. That's what I was familiar and comfortable with, even though it was painful. So I kept recreating that pattern and dated and dated and dated until finally I broke the cycle and married this incredibly supportive, loving, gorgeous man who is now my husband, and we're actually just celebrated 10 years together on May 12th. So I like to think that I'm a good wife. Sometimes I'm like, am I a good wife? And he's like, yeah, you're a good wife. So I'm glad that happens. So what I want to give you today is some support and validation and hope, direction for where to get more help. I want to give you the opportunity to experience the healing effects of community, getting some actual healing on the call today with some of the information that I share will give you some illumination so that hopefully you'll be able to have the opportunity to make some different choices through awareness. And you are definitely in the right place if you're struggling with anxiety, depression, lack of motivation for life, a loss of what to do next, and feeling stuck. These are very common side effects of emotional trauma, which is what narcissistic abuse is. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So before we go into this start, what I would like to do here is put you in, let's see. So wow, we've got 54 people on the call. Awesome. So what I'm going to do is put you in groups of 3. Yay, great, you guys. I love it. Isn't the Zoom thing amazing? It's so great. Okay, so let's go on to the next thing. I'm going to go and go back to my PowerPoint and share a few more things with you. And then I'm going to put you in groups again. So give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen and if you can hear me okay. So we ended up here talking about what I want you to get out of today. Also, I'm going to share with you the 3 pillars of recovery so you can finally heal. And I say so you can finally heal because without these 3 things, you're not going to be able to do recovery. So you have to make sure you implement these. This is based on my experience with many, many, many hundreds of people. These are 3 necessary pillars for your recovery. I want to share with you the number 1 mistake I see people making that prevents their healing, that I see all the time, that keeps people stuck. I've made this mistake. It's very common. So if you're making it, please don't beat yourself up. You're normal. Also, I'm going to share some other mistakes, some other common mistakes people make in recovery that keep them stuck. And hopefully with that information, you're going to have an idea of what are your next steps to create your own recovery map. It's going to give you a sense of, oh, okay, well, this is where I need to go next. This is what I need to do next. And then I don't obviously have the opportunity to share everything about healing tonight. So I'll share as much as I can. And then at the end, I'll show you how to get more support, more personal support with me if you would like to. And I will also answer all your questions at the end. However, feel free to chat them in the chat because I will go through the chat at the end and answer as many questions as I can. So that way you can participate so you don't forget. Feel free to put it in the chat. Okay, so let's go into pillar number 3. So this is a foundation. This is something that you need in building your recovery journey. What's really important is to have a community that understands what you have been through and can share in your experiences. And I say this because so often people who've dealt with narcissistic abuse try to share about what's going on for them or what has happened for them with friends or with family or maybe people that are close in their life. But if those people haven't experienced narcissistic abuse, the person whose experiences ends up getting either a blank face or like sometimes they get what we call gaslighted, like almost like, well, that can't be, like, that's your mom, they love you, or like, why would your ex do that? Like, I almost want to say normal people just don't get it. And rather than wasting your time and energy to try and explain what it's like to have narcissistic abuse to a person who hasn't gone through it, I encourage you to consciously seek out people who understand, who get it, who have been through it, that can hear your language, that understand what you're talking about. And so for that, that's the reason why I created our Facebook group. We have over 4,000 members, and that group is very active, sharing stories, helping each other, giving validation, sharing similar experiences. So I recommend that you look for a community that really gets what narcissistic abuse is. Like with the Facebook group, it's really important that we keep it positive. It's about healing. It's about awareness. Definitely, I don't recommend you fall into a community that's like focused on like complaining and whining and bitching about narcissists, because I've seen those, and those are not helpful. So a community that understands, but also a community that's focused on healing. So we have that. I'll put the Facebook group address in the chat at the end, so you're invited to join our Facebook group. And then there's also a second community of people that work closely with me, and they're really committed to healing, and they want to work through the pillars and the stages that I teach, that I've created for recovering and thriving and getting the hell on with our lives. And they get breakthroughs like relief of guilt, a sense of rightness, like I was right, like this happened to me and I'm okay, like nothing's wrong with me. Getting relief from heartache, feeling like they're not alone, knowing that this is a real problem, and implementing the solution in their life so they can actually move on and have a healthy relationship or have a healthy career. You know, some people have to recover from narcissistic relationships in the workplace. although most have to do with family. So pillar number 3 is community. Being in a community that gets it, a community that understands. Okay, pillar number 2. So a lot of times I have people who've had multiple therapists or multiple years of therapy, and they come to the groups and they're like, I didn't know I had narcissistic abuse. My therapist isn't an expert in narcissistic abuse. Therapy helped me, but barely at all. And I do have some people that have great things to say about therapy. But in the cases when therapy does not work, it's because people haven't gotten a therapist that understands that what they're going through is emotional trauma. So what you have to do to be effective with your therapy or with any healing that you undertake is you have to address emotional trauma. Everyone that comes through recovery has a form of CPTSD, which stands for complex post-traumatic stress. And the D stands for disorder. I don't really believe it's a disorder. I believe it's an order. I believe it's okay. I believe it's a normal response to an abnormal situation. The emotional trauma is a normal response to an abnormal situation. And all of us feel crazy when we have emotional trauma. All of us feel not normal. And that's part of the trauma. That's part of what trauma does. It does rewire the brain. So it's really important to address emotional trauma. So I would even go as far as to say that when you look for help with recovery, if you look for a therapist, they don't necessarily have to even be an expert in narcissistic abuse. If they are an expert in helping people overcome emotional trauma, that's actually even more helpful, because there's special modalities that certain therapists specialize in that are specifically geared towards helping people process trauma. So here are 2 of them. There's EMDR and there's somatic experiencing. These are 2 common modalities for processing emotional trauma. So I encourage you, when you're looking for support, when you're looking for help with this issue, understand that part of your healing has to do with addressing the emotional trauma. If we don't address that emotional trauma, unfortunately, we're really just working on an intellectual mind level. We're not really getting to the core emotional and spiritual issues, and even the sense of trauma that the body keeps within when it's been through emotional abuse, such as narcissistic abuse. So I encourage you to write these 2 down. EMDR stands for eye motion desensitization re-education, I believe, and somatic experiencing. Those are 2 methods for processing emotional trauma. And then feel free to research additional. There's multiple methods. These are just some of the most popular ones, and also some of the ones that I hear the best things about. Personally, I did a lot of somatic experiencing sessions myself to work through the emotional trauma, and I mean, it was phenomenal. So I gave you a little tip here. If you have insurance and you can get therapy, it's best to look for a therapist who understands trauma. It's actually more important that they understand trauma than that they understand narcissism, because what you're really dealing with is emotional trauma. Okay, let me know if you have any questions and thoughts about this. I'm going to go to pillar 1, and then I'm going to put you in groups to recap. Pillar 1. This is the other pillar that without this pillar, you're not going to recover. And it's get started. Get started. So many of us stay stuck. We isolate. We get understandably depressed. We get anxiety. But this is a problem, and it does have a solution. Hundreds of people recover. You can do it. It's possible. It is, of course, a healing journey. But when you're in action, that momentum actually can keep you balanced. It can keep you moving forward so that you don't get stuck, so that you don't start isolating, so that you don't spiral down to shame and guilt and behaviors that are gonna take you out of your healing path. The how you get started is, like I said, finding a community, dealing with emotional trauma, but also there's some other pieces like addressing guilt and self-blame, which that's part of the emotional trauma. My little tip here to you is if you have guilt and self-blame, you're okay. That's part of the journey. That's normal. That's part of what happens with narcissistic abuse. It doesn't mean that it's your fault, and it doesn't mean that you're unworthy of restoration or help or healing. It just means that you've been through emotional trauma. And it's common when we have emotional trauma to isolate and to feel lonely and to spiral into feeling unworthy of a good life. So all of this is normal. So if you're experiencing these things, it just means that you have emotional trauma, and it is a problem that has a solution. So I encourage you to implement the pillars into your life so that you can create a foundation upon which you can start building your recovery. Once these emotions of feeling unworthy and the isolation and the loneliness, once they're addressed, once you start to integrate them and start moving into, okay, well, now how do I create a healthy relationship? Now, how do I speak lovingly to myself? How do I nourish self-esteem within myself? How do I reclaim my sense of feeling worthy of love? Those are all things that are best addressed in coaching. Therapy is really good for, like I said, the emotional trauma if you get the right therapist, and also getting validation and maybe getting some education around family systems and really understanding the situation from like a bird's eye view. But then from there, most people want tools and they want strategies of moving forward effectively and efficiently. And that's what I do. That's where coaching comes in, is to help you create a healthy relationship blueprint, help you create a healthy way of self-care, help you create a way of asking for what you need, expressing your boundaries in a healthy way, etc., etc. Also dating healthy men, knowing what is a healthy person, knowing what is an unhealthy person, the signs of a toxic person, even when they're subtle, things like that. Okay, so those are the 3 pillars. Awesome. Yeah, feel free to share in the chat what you learned, and also if you have any questions. Okay, so let's go on to the top mistakes, and then we'll have a chance for me to answer questions, for you to ask any questions that you need to ask. All right, so let me share screen here, and we will go to the rest of them. Beautiful. Okay, so let's quickly review the 3 pillars. Pillar 3 was community. People that understand and want to heal with you, not people that don't get it and are going to just sit around complaining or trying to convince you that it didn't happen. Pillar number 2 is addressing the emotional trauma. Pillar number 1 is getting started and staying in action, knowing that this is a problem that has a solution. Just getting started. Okay, so let's talk about the mistakes. The number 1 mistake I see in recovery that keeps people stuck is waiting for an apology. Waiting for an apology. I'm going to invite you to type that in the chat, because that is the number 1 mistake, and you might be making it. I will give you a few more here, and please type in the chat if you're making any of these. Let us know which one. Again, I want to reiterate that this is normal. This doesn't mean that something is wrong with you. I'm just bringing it to your attention because it keeps us stuck. There are ways to move through these, and I'll share an analogy that helps a lot of people. Okay, so waiting for an apology is in bold because that is a top mistake. Here are some others. Thinking that someone else has a role in your recovery in some way, that they have to participate, or that they have to facilitate, or that they have to admit wrong, or they have to change. Thinking that someone else has a role in your recovery is a big mistake. Let me give you an example. I overeat. I'm a little chubby. That's some of the ways that I handle my emotions. I'm doing really, really good with it, but I'm still working on it. It's my next level. Now, don't you think I would love it if I could just hire somebody to go on a diet for me? Or somebody to do Weight Watchers for me so I don't have to, and then I'll lose the weight. They'll do Weight Watchers and I'll lose the weight, or they'll do whatever program and I'll lose the weight. It doesn't work that way. Healing doesn't work that way. We have to do it. We're the ones that have to do it. Nobody else needs to have a role in our recovery. I like to say that healing is between me and me, or it's between me and God. But no one else need be part of that. The next mistake I see a lot is never removing your focus from the narcissist. A lot of times people spend a lot of time talking about their narcissist and what they did and how could they and why would they and what are they thinking and what are they going through and why would they do this and how could they think that. And it's a normal part of recovery, you guys. It's something that if you're in this stage, there's nothing wrong, but it's a really good stage for therapy. It's not a good stage for coaching, because if you're in this stage and you're having trouble removing your focus from the narcissist, you're not going to move forward. So what I recommend you do is you use your will to just, and I have a little dance that goes, do a 180. Everybody do it with me. I want to see you do it. Do a 180. I want to see you do it. I'm going to stop this right now, and I want to see you all do it. Do a 180. Do a 180. Do a 180. Yes, I love it. I love it. Do a 180. You have to look the other way. If you're facing in the direction of the narcissist, if you're facing your focus on them, if you're focused on what they did or didn't do, that means you're not focused on you. That means you're not focused on your healing. It's like that thing that people say, if you're talking, you're not listening. So if you're focused on the narcissist, you're not focused on your healing. That will keep you stuck. So notice if you are focused on the narcissist and remind yourself to remove your focus from the narcissist, because as long as you stay focused on the narcissist, you will not heal. You will not move forward in recovery. Okay, that's a huge mistake I see people making. Okay, another big mistake is waiting for somebody else to change. Waiting for somebody else to change. That kind of goes with the first one here, thinking that someone else has a role in your recovery, but waiting for them to change. It's putting your power in somebody else's hands. It's giving away your power. It's waiting for somebody else to do something for you, like waiting for somebody else to do the diet for you, if you will use that metaphor, right? Waiting for another to change is often an excuse that people mistakenly say that somebody else, once they change, it will get better. But it won't get better and they won't change, and that has nothing to do with your recovery. So that's a mistake. Okay, so waiting for an apology we talked about. Here's a couple more. Seeking validation from the unhealthy person about the reality of the abuse. I remember for myself, I was stuck here for so long. Like, I want to say like years, like 10, 11, 12 years with my mom, I was always trying to get her to get it. Like I wanted her to get it. Like I would explain it this way, and I would explain it that way, and I would explain it another way, and I would explain it a third way. And not only did she never get it, but what it did is incited what we call narcissistic rage. And what narcissistic rage is somebody who gets very upset because we've tripped up their defenses. We've made them feel their shame that they're denying. That's what narcissism is. It's a coping mechanism for toxic shame. So we make them feel we're trying to get them to take the ownership for their part, but they don't see it that way. They see it as an affront, and they fly into what we call narcissistic rage. I literally would have like foaming at the mouth rage from my mom. I had it for years. So seeking validation from the unhealthy persons about the reality of the abuse is never going to work. It will just propagate the cycle. It will propagate the cycle. So you want to detach from this as soon as possible. That's another really common mistake. And another caveat of that is telling the narcissist how you feel and expecting them to finally get it, right? What is the definition of insanity? Somebody type it in the chat for me. What is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing and expecting different results, right? That's the definition of insanity. So telling the narcissist how you feel and expecting them to finally get it, this is something that's never going to happen, and it's a huge mistake. Just spend your energy on. Bernie, leave it. Sorry. Oh, come on in. Sorry, you guys. I just have my Airbnb person. Okay, so big question. What if your healing is yours to create? What if it doesn't have anything to do with anybody else? What if it's between you and you, or between you and God? Nobody can go on a diet for you. I'm sorry, right? In a second, I'm going to put you in groups again, and I want you to answer this question. What if your healing is yours to create? And if you were feeling healed and whole, what would you do? What would you be? What would you have? I'll type it in the broadcast so you'll have it as you chat. Now, here's something I want to share with you as an example of this analogy. For those of you who've been with me before, you'll have heard this. So the analogy is that, let's say you get in a car accident, just to help illustrate some of these things. You get in a car accident, you're going through an intersection, and somebody hits you. And unfortunately, your leg is broken. Do we go to the person that hit us for healing? Type me in the chat. Do we go to the person that hit us and be like, well, you better apologize, otherwise I can't go to the doctor, because until you apologize, I'm never going to be okay? No, where do we go? We don't go to them. We go where? Type it in the chat for me. Karen says absurd. Yeah, absurd, right? We go to the doctor. We go to the doctor. And so this is to illustrate this idea of waiting for somebody else to have a say, waiting for them to apologize, waiting for them to change. That's like going to the guy that hit you and asking them to fix your broken leg. You see it? So we don't go to the guy that hit us at the intersection to fix our broken leg. We go to the doctor. We go to the doctor. We don't go to the person that hit us. We go to the doctor. Now, part two of this analogy is sometimes people have a hard time with, oh my God, do I deserve healing? Like, because we get so much blame and gaslighting and shame, then we feel so terrible that we think in our head that if we go to the doctor is going to say, well, was it your fault? What did you have to do with this accident? Were you in the middle of the intersection when they drove by? Did you cause this? Well, if you caused this, then I'm not going to heal you. That's what we do to ourselves. But the analogy here is that when we go to the doctor doesn't ask us, do you deserve healing? The doctor doesn't ask us, what did you have to do with this injury? The doctor just, what? What does the doctor do? They just fix our leg. It doesn't matter if we're at fault or if somebody's gaslighting us, blaming us, shaming us. That doesn't have anything to do with our healing. Our healing has to do with us going to the doctor. Lara, you have a really good additional thing that you said about this. Can I meet you and have you share the third piece that drives it home? This is Lara, everybody. She's our co-coach here at Worthy of Love.
The doctor does not heal your leg. They brace it. You heal your leg. Your leg heals itself. That's the amazing thing about the human body and humanity in general, the human emotion too.
Thank you. Yeah, so more specifically, I should say the doctor doesn't heal your leg. The doctor puts your leg in a cast so your leg can heal. But we don't go to the person that hit us for the cast. And then when we go to the doctor doesn't ask us, well, do you deserve a cast? Are you a good person? Did you cause this? You guys see it, right? Who sees it? Give me a thumbs up. William says he checked my prostate. Okay. Thanks, William, for that information. Okay, you guys. So I'm going to split you up again. Go ahead and click on your link below. That's going to take you to a different group this time. Reminder, if you're by yourself, I will find you and move you to a group. So hang tight. Janine says, I love that analogy. Awesome. So when you get to your group, share with them what would life be like if you were the one in charge of your healing? Completely. If no one else had anything to do with it, what would life be like? There I am. I'm back. Okay, so what I was saying is that what was pillar one? Pillar one was getting started. So what I was saying is you did get started. You did that. You are here. You showed up. You came to this video online conference. You probably didn't know what to expect. You were brave. You came. So I want you to just tap yourself, give yourself some acknowledgement that you are seeking answers, that you are taking action. You're already implementing one of the pillars. So because you showed up, I want to invite you to a love and confidence breakthrough session with me. And this I offer as a gift. It's a one-on-one call with me where we get to talk about you and see where you're at and what you need next in your recovery. And I will make my professional recommendation. I give this a $197 value. I've had people tell me it's way more valuable than that. I've even heard people say it's priceless. But I want to offer you this gift, you guys, because you're here. That means you are sincere. You are sincere about healing. You are sincere about getting help. Now, I did want to say one caveat to this invitation is that if you happen to be in a place where you're still really struggling with taking your attention off the narcissist, if you're in a place where you're still not quite sure if you had narcissistic abuse or if you need validation, that's okay. But I'm going to just be honest and tell you, you might not get a lot out of the session because I'm going to be trying to help you to look at strategies and tools to move forward. So if you are not in a place where you're ready yet, where you still need validation, where you still want to talk about the wounds and the pain, which is fine, but if you need to just air it out, that's not what this session is for. I just want to be very clear that this is a session about getting tools and strategies for healing and moving forward. So if that's you, then I want to invite you to take advantage of this gift. And Here are some of the results that are possible for you when you stay the course and implement the tools that we talked about today, and keep putting one foot up in front of the other. Get support, get in a community, integrate the pillars. You have people stop anxiety, they heal depression, they heal insomnia. You start being able to feel confident that you can communicate clearly and get what you want and need. People start creating healthy boundaries and know being walked on. That should be not reciprocal, not transactional relationships. And this just means relationships that are fulfilling. They're not just like, oh, you do this, I do that, you do this, I do that, like a Survivor type, that show Survivor. It's not like an alliance type of relationship. It's a fulfilling, sustainable relationship. That's what reciprocal relationships are. And feeling worthy of love, having your self-worth restored, getting confidence back in your life, parenting with more ease. These are the results that are possible for you guys. This is part of the healing. So here is my invitation. Because you showed up, I want to offer you the gift of the Love and Confidence Breakthrough session with me, which is the one-on-one session. Here is the link where you can book, calendly.com/worthy-of-love. So if you'd like to take advantage of this session, go ahead and book here with me. I will also put the link in the chat so you can click directly at the link. It's calendly.com/worthy-of-love. All right, fabulous. So that is all for tonight. Now I am happy to take questions. I see a lot of chats coming through. If you have a question, feel free to type in the chat. If you have a comment, if you have anything you want to share about what you've learned tonight, if you have anything, any observations, like, oh wow, I just realized that this is going on, or that something else is going on, then feel free to chat it. Now I see some hands up, so I'm gonna also call on you guys.
Amelia.
Hi, Lara. Yeah?
Very early on in the chat, somebody asked, how do you know that somebody's a narcissist? Would that be a question you'd like to answer with a couple of the signs?
Sure. People who have narcissistic traits are usually it's very difficult to have them take any accountability for their actions and how their actions impact others. They get very defensive. They may never apologize, or if they do apologize, it's usually not sincere, and the behavior doesn't change. There's something that happens in those conversations that we call gaslighting, which is making you feel like you're crazy, telling you that you're the problem, telling you that, no, those aren't the facts, you can't feel that way, basically invalidating your feelings with supposed facts. A lot of times the experiences that we have when we're in the presence of a narcissist is anxiety, not feeling that we can be authentic, not feeling safe, not feeling that we can express ourselves, not feeling that we can ask for what we need, and just generally very anxious and very uncomfortable, and maybe even having panic attacks. So if you're feeling that way around somebody and they're displaying some of these characteristics, you're probably dealing with somebody who has narcissistic traits. Let me know if that helps. All right, you guys, you know what? I'm getting so many chats, so I'm just going to work backwards, unfortunately. Maybe fortunately, because that way I'll know what questions I'm getting to and what questions I'm not getting to. So EMDR, I'm going to type it in the chat. That's one modality. EMDR is one emotional trauma recovery modality. The other is somatic experiencing. These are just the ones that I've heard of or I've tried. How do you leave a narc? the same way you leave not an arc. Sorry. How do you leave an arc? You leave, you walk out the door. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. But you walk out the door and you implement the pillars and you make sure you're not making the mistakes.
Amelia, can I jump in there?
Yeah.
Has left a narcissistic spouse. So I think things that are really important about when you leave, one, you need to have a really solid, at least one really solid pillar for you that will check on you regularly, that supports you, that champions you, right? And lets you know that you're doing the right thing. I think it's incredibly scary because if you've been in it a long time, your world is wrapped around that person and you don't know how you're going to survive. But the reality is people leave relationships and there is a light at the other side of the tunnel, and you just have to keep walking the path that has already been paved by other people. I think the second thing that you have to do is set very clear boundaries for yourself and hold to them. Hold to the standard that you want to be treated. If somebody is dismissing you and treating you badly, changing facts, I do everything I do with my ex, I do in writing because of gaslighting. So I have to have it in writing because then I can screenshot it and show it, right? Have a champion. No, you didn't pave this path. People have gone before you, and set really strong boundaries. That's what I would say. And just keep walking. It's literally one foot in front of another, one breath at a time. You don't have to have a plan. You just have to know what the next thing you're going to do is.
Yep. Thank you, Lara. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Can you share about narco-dependent connection? Yes. So basically, from my experience, like in my family, both of my parents switched. Like one would be the role of the narcissist, the other would be the role of the codependent, and then they would switch. The other one would play the narcissist, and the other one would play the codependent. This may not be in all relationships. It could be like that some relationships remain like in one flip or the other flip. I don't know how to say it. But basically, the narcissist is somebody who is looking for somebody to dance when they say dance, jump when they say jump. They want someone that is going to wipe their butt. I know, I'm overdoing it, but you guys know what I mean, right? The codependent is someone who gets their sense of self-worth and their sense of identity from jumping when someone else says jump, being somebody else's great jumper, being somebody else's great butt wiper. Why isn't anyone laughing? Isn't this funny? Like, don't you guys find this funny? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a part of you that wants to be the best butt wiper somebody ever had. And so you take on that role, and the person who has the narcissistic traits, they're looking for a person that wants that job. So that's how the codependent and the narcissist have this, it's almost like a trauma bond because it's not a healthy bond, but they play a role for each other. Each one is playing a role that they get validation from, but it's not a healthy reciprocal relationship because neither person is whole and sovereign on their own. They're depending on each other for things that are, it's not ultimately in the relationship's health's best interest to be depending on those things. It's not a healthy interdependence, it's an unhealthy codependence. Lara, do you have more you want to add to that?
I'm so sorry. I was responding to a couple of the chats and I was
no worries.
So I don't know what I would add.
What if the narcissists are your immediate family? Is there a way to have a relationship with them? So Neil, that's my situation, mom and dad. And like Lara said, I had to draw really strong boundaries, and I'm really glad I did. And going through a period of no contact allowed me the space and the time I needed to do my healing. And now they don't throw me into fits of rage. They just irritate me or annoy me. So it's not a big deal if they do what they do. But it used to be where like I'd go visit my mom at her house, and then I'd be raging and crying for 2, 3, 4 days, having panic attacks, not be able to sleep for about a week. Thank God that doesn't happen anymore. But yes, I had to not go to her house for a while. I had to go no contact and really implement boundaries and do my healing. So as to your question, is there a way to have a relationship with them? I would say yes, there is. Once you do your healing, you will be in a place where you can have a relationship that isn't going to harm you. It's just going to maybe sometimes annoy you. And that's one of the huge benefits of doing the healing, is that then we no longer have ways that they can emotionally manipulate us, that they can plug into us. We've healed those wounds, we've healed those buttons, if you will, and they just become irritating instead of enraging.
Yep. And I think just for anyone who's a parent, right? Like if you set a standard for your children, you have to follow through. If you set a standard with your sister or your father and they're not honoring your standard or your boundary, you just have to follow through, right? I'm still my dad's child. And when he goes into his stuff thinking he's better and can act however he wants, I just say, we don't act that way in our house. We love you. And me and your grandchildren cannot be with you right now. And I take my kids and I leave.
Yeah. And same, like my daughter's only 6, so she gets irritated sometimes when she feels that lack of emotional safety that happens when my mom needs to go off on a tangent and she's not emotionally attuned to her and what she's needing. And I just like take her in the other room and close the door. And then she gets over her thing, and then she can interact with grandma again. And that's okay. You know, a lot of times people tell me, well, you shouldn't have your kids with the narcissist. But it's like, no, I'm there. I'm okay. They're going to be okay. And they need to learn. They're not always going to have ideal people in their life. They need to learn how to deal with those difficult relationships, and they need to learn what's healthy. With parents, gray rock method, someone says. Yep, that works. It's just so true. It's sobering. There are better things to aim for than being the best butt wiper. Yes, absolutely. The jumping part is real. Oh my God, yes, it is. It is funny. Thank you, Lisa. Somebody gets my wonky communist Bulgarian sense of humor. Thanks so much, Lara. I want to grab him and screw, William says. Okay, William, give it. You got to explain a little bit more here. I'm not sure I know what you're talking about. Bruce says, thank you. It's also important when leaving a narcissist to go no contact. Yep. I think that's important to do that so that you can do your healing, because as long as they're triggering those wounds, it's like just pouring salt on old wounds, and it's hard to get your healing completed and done. Okay. I'm just looking for more questions. If ready to move forward but have children, how does that impact the decision? Feels like they will get caught in the middle and don't want that. Okay, James, I'm going to have Larry answer you, but I just want to give my 2 cents first. Is for the entire time that I've been doing this, where's James? I don't see James. Maybe he's not here anymore.
No, he just
Hi, James. I've never had anybody say that leaving was worse than staying. Like, people usually say, I'm so glad I left. I'm so much better off. My kids are so much better off. I'm so glad I did it. I wish I'd done it sooner. Nobody ever says the opposite. So what does that tell you? That tells you that even if it's hard, and even if there is an element where they're getting caught in the middle, it's still healthier than being in the abuse. I haven't had to leave a partner with this, so I don't have personal experience with this. I'm just speaking from my experience with others. But Lara does, so I'll let her speak to this.
So I left my ex-husband. My children were 7 and 3, almost 4. And we had relocated from, I live in the DC area. We had relocated to the state where his parents live. And we were there for 1 year, and he blew up our lives. I mean, the abuse was there before, but he really imploded our lives. And not only did I divorce him, but I left with my children. I left that state to come back to DC where my career was. And it was hard, right? So my children have been in therapy for a long time. And we talk a lot about having trusted adults in their lives, and that I am one person, but they need other people, their teachers, their therapist. And I'm in constant contact with both their therapist and their teachers without invading their privacy. And I also provide space for my kids to be able to say, we really want you and daddy back together. It's been we're going on 4 years. And so they'll say they still want us to be married. They still want us to live under the same roof. And my ex is married to somebody else. And so I say to them, like, I hear your wants. I understand it's really hard. You know that I would do anything that I could for you, but I have to live a healthy life. And being in that marriage wasn't healthy for me. And so if I'm not healthy, I can't help raise you to be healthy. And they want to know more and more and more. And I won't answer. Basically, I say to them, Daddy and I were like 2 puzzle pieces that don't fit together. And if you push 2 puzzle pieces together that don't fit, one of them will break. And you don't want either of your parents to break. And I acknowledge that they don't remember all the fighting, and that I absolutely understand their wants and desires, but it's healthier for both their dad and I to live separately. So it's hard. But I think anyone leaving any marriage with children is hard. But I've never been healthier, and I've never been happier for them. You know, I've never been healthier and happier with me. So they get a healthy, happy mom.
Thank you, Lara. Yeah, and that's how we're modeling. Then we can model. They're learning much more from who we are than what we say. So if we're modeling health by leaving that unhealthy situation, if we're modeling health by taking care of ourselves, not only is it better for them that they have a healthy parent, but we're also modeling to them what healthy looks like. Because they may get into a situation where they have to leave a toxic person. And probably if we left that person and modeled that, they're hopefully never going to get with a toxic person in the first place. But if they do, there's been a path already forged for them. So I think those things are really, really important. Okay, so you guys, it's 8:38. We were going to end at 8:30. I had given us until 8:30. I don't mind staying and answering a few more questions here, so I'll continue, but feel free to pop off if you want to. I'm giving you the link to my calendar to book a session. If you'd like to book that Love and Confidence Breakthrough session that I offered you, calendly.com/worthy of love, worthy of love. So go ahead and book a time there if you feel like this is something that you want to take advantage of. Calendly.
You should do it. Emilia's amazing.
Thank you, Lara. Okay, so there is the link, and then okay, so the question about apologizing and how do we know if they're sincere? Well, a healthy person who is sincere about an apology will do their best to not repeat that mistake. They may say things like, how can I help since I've caused damage? What can I do to make this better? They might say things like, next time this happens, can you stop me and tell me, because I don't want to do it again. If you find that's how a healthy person would handle that situation. That's how you can tell if they're sincere. If they're not doing those things, and if they're repeating the offending thing, and they're just apologizing without any action, then I think you can assume they're not sincere. Lara, what do you think?
100%, I concur.
Thank you. Okay, Jennifer Beard, I see you have your hand up, so I'm just gonna unmute you.
Oh, no,
Jennifer, do you have a question?
You answered it. It's how to leave a narc. Thank you.
Oh, that was you. Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you.
You're welcome.
No,
And
I'm
Jen
in my room.
T, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah. Hang on
Jen?
1 second. Hang on.
Oh,
Hang on.
all right. Sounds like she's busy. Okay, you guys. Well, I do see a lot of questions up higher, so I'm going through to see what else I can answer for you. I have questions at the very beginning of the chat. Should I copy and paste them? Yeah, that would really help. Thank you. I have a lot to scroll through, and I'd love to get your questions. I'm sure they're helpful to everybody. Thank you, Emilia. You're welcome, Karen. You're welcome, Lisa. You're welcome, Kelly. Good night.
Bye.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for all your
Stay
time.
well.
Good night. You're welcome. Bye, everyone.